Good morning to everybody in India. It's early morning over here. We extend a very hearty welcome to all our brothers and sisters, those are here in India. Namaskar. Today is Asadha Poornima, Evam Varshavas. It's a Dharma Chakra day. It's a wonderful day. And when we are celebrating Asadha Poornima, on this particular day, we extend a very hearty welcome to all our brothers and sisters, those have joined from the different parts of India. Let me move little away from India and take you to Southeast Asia and South Asia. Of course, we have got Sri Lanka, we have got Maldives, we have got Bhutan, we have got Nepal, and we have got a couple of other countries which we have got. We extend a very hearty welcome in South Asia. And thereafter, I move to Southeast Asia and ASEAN. All my brothers and sisters from Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Brunei, and of course, people those joined us from Bahrain every day, we extend you a very hearty welcome. Central Asia, we extend a very warm welcome to people from Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan. We are grateful to all of you for having, joined us this morning as well. When I got the WhatsApp messages right from morning 5 a.m. India's time, last 4.5 hours, I have been getting a lot of pouring in from the WhatsApp. So you can watch us live on the Facebook. All our brothers and sisters, those are in Australia, those are in New Zealand, those are in Fiji, and a couple of other countries, that part and that continent and that portion, we extend you a very warm welcome. I know it's going to be a lunch time for you. You must be enjoying your lunch. So thereafter, we further proceed on to, and initially I show you a couple of slides so that people, those are joining us for the first time, we give you a little profile and a background, and you understand what exactly is the purpose of this program and how we are bringing the relevance of Buddha's teaching in today's education system world over, because it's global confluence of educators and motivators from the world over. I know it's a late evening for people in Canada, Latin America, United States, but I'm grateful to all of you for having joined us from that part of the world also. You all are wonderful people, and you all, my brothers and sisters, we are so grateful to you. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning we have been joined by three very esteemed, distinguished guests. Before I share with them and bring them on this particular forum, I would like to share a few slides with you so that we all are on the common frequency, as I mentioned to you. So the purpose and the objective of this entire series, which we started on 5th of June, is making education relevant. And when we talk about making education relevant, education is relevant to our day-to-day life. Education got to have a relevance, what kind of a life we are leading, how we behave, how we move, how basically we deal with other fellow human beings world over, whether the purpose of education is to look after culture, peace, humanity, brotherhood, heritage, harmony, or it has got only the economic purpose. It's a global confluence of educators and motivators besides others from the world over when we talk about this, ladies and gentlemen. Let me roll to the next slide so that you get an idea what exactly we are doing and how we are proceeding. Ladies and gentlemen, our chamber, ICSI, International Chamber for Service Industry, is associated with 30 million non-resident Indians, those have gone world over. They've gone for various purposes. They are into different professions. They are into different arenas, and they're doing their own way. And our chamber has got a privilege. We started India's first Buddhist pilgrimage facilitation executive program. Venerable Dr. Dhammapiya ji, along with Ashok Wangdi ji, along with Malingamo, and couple of our brothers, and of course sisters, our chamber started this first program, and the basic objective, Buddhist pilgrimage facilitation executives. And you would be happy to know that 30 boys and girls those are follower of Buddhism. They are getting trained at this point of time in different foreign languages. They are getting the basic norms that the people, those are coming for pilgrimage to India, they got to be facilitated. They got to be taken care of. They should travel to different places related to Buddhism, basically hassle-free, without any difficulty, and they should finish their pilgrimage in the most peaceful way. So there is a Buddhist pilgrimage facilitation executives training program. And the best part is this program is being offered free of cost without charging anything from anybody. And the next batch of 30 youth is also getting ready. Our immediate past president of the chamber for 4 years from the United States, from the California, he holds his PhD in Buddhism. He spent about 18 years of his life with Buddhism, and he got the Best Management Professor Teacher Award. With the Buddha Purnima celebrations way back in 2016, when India Habitat Center in India at Lodi Road, when we had the functions, and thereafter, on 10th of January 2018, we organized a very big gathering, Living Buddhist Leadership. That was their interactive program. And we are so grateful to follower of Buddhism that from the world over, they were the part of this particular program in India. So, ladies and gentlemen, this morning, we extend a very hearty welcome and a very warm welcome. And I bow my head before my three distinguished guests and three fellow panelists. Those are going to share their thought process, and they are going to enrich us, educate us, empower us to understand. First, I have got Bhikkhuni Thong Niem. She is Brenda Huang Zuen Lee. She's at British Columbia, Canada. It's a late evening where people are going to be sleeping after some time, but she had been very kind to be a part of it. That's why I requested her, you be the first speaker today. She's a psychology teacher in Phok Guang Shan in New Delhi, India, and she's a Dharma teacher in Vietnamese Buddhist Association in British Columbia, Canada. She's a member of Bhikkhuni Sangha of Vietnamese Buddhist Congress in USA. We extend a very hearty welcome to Madam Bhikkhuni. Let me also share with you that we have got another very eminent and a distinguished guest. I happened to meet her in Dwarka when we had the International Buddhist Confederation function, and she is Madam Shermila Milroy, who holds her PhD in reading, and she comes from Sri Lanka. She's an educationist, she's a teacher educator, she's a lecturer, she's e-learning material designer, educational administrator, coordinator cum lecturer, Lyceum Academy for Teacher Education in Sri Lanka. We extend her a very hearty welcome this morning. We have also been joined by Venerable Pasura dantamano from Bangkok. Venerable Pasuraji, he is the Chief of International Relations Division at Ven.Phra Dhammapiya Temple, Thailand. He's a teaching for the Project Peace Revolution, which is the online platform offering free guided meditation and self-development program. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a proud privilege, it's a great honor that we have got three of the legends in the universe. Those have joined us this morning. We extend a very hearty welcome to all three of them. Namaste from India. A very happy Asadha Poornima, Evam Varshavas, Dharma Chakra Day, and Bahujan Hitai and Bahujan Sukhai. This particular day, I extend a very warm welcome to Madam Bhikkhuni ji, Bhikkhuni Thong Niem, to kindly address and kindly share her thoughts with us how the world can be more at peace, we all can live peacefully, and how the education world over can be empowered. That is the most important thing. With these words, a very hearty welcome to all three of them. And Madam Bhikkhuni Thong Niem.
Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. Before I start, I ask a permission to chant the Buddhas before I start. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Good morning to the Mahasangha, or good morning, evening to the Mahasangha in USA or America, Canada. Good morning to everyone in Asia, Southeast Asia, and or good morning to America or Canada, and good evening to, actually good evening to, no, good evening to America and Canada, and the people in Asia and Southeast Asia. First, I would like to say thank you to Samaji and Dhammapiya Panteji. Give me this opportunity to share my thought about this. And so before I start with education, I would like to share about the well-being, development of the well-being in the Buddhist perspectives. And this is so much linked to the education. You see nowadays all over the world, Buddhism has been taught in institution, university, and colleges. And it seems like everybody know the basic philosophy and concept about Buddhism. But then what's going on with the world? People still go through stress. People still have suffering and difficulty, not only in mental, but it's also physical, overweighting, diabetes, and all these things. So then we think that what's going on? People know Buddhism, Buddhist teaching, but then what is missing here? So here I'm thinking, according to Buddhism, we have three ways of access our knowledge, right? That is Suttamaya Panya, and Chintamaya Panya, and Bhavanamaya Panya. So we learn all this kind of Buddhism from college and university. And of course, we write our PhD. That is go into the second level, that is Chintamaya Panya. But then the missing point here is Bhavana Maya Panya. That we don't really apply whatever we're learning into our daily practice. So that's why because we cannot apply all these things, whatever we have learned into the daily life. So that's why we don't see the true benefit from what we have learned. So what is the well-being for the Buddhist teaching? And if we don't apply, then we don't really truly live with the whatever is said in Dhamma. Because the Dhamma is that Swakato Bhagavato Dhammo. It's a well preached. Santidiko is visible. It's very obvious. Whatever you learn is there. You understand it. Akaliko, whatever you practice, you don't wait until that you die and then you get be born into another realm, but you will get the benefit from here. Ehipasiko, we invite you to come to learn from it. We not pressure you for money, from power, but we invite you to come and experience it, verifying it, upanayiko. Okay, and then that's application, you have to experience yourself. Whatever you meditate, you have to experience by yourself. Whatever you experience, you cannot share with anyone. You can share your knowledge, you can share the concept, but you cannot share the experience. Give you the example. If I give you a glass of water, hot water, and I say, how hot of the water? You say, oh, wow, it's going to burn my tongue. But then other people say, okay, it's not 100 degree or 90 degree. It's just a concept of description. But it's truly experience that how it's burn your tongue and your lips. Only yourself can experience that. So when you cultivate, only yourself can experience that. And you benefit from that. So that's why the whole thing, whatever we learn and we don't apply, then we don't live up to the Dhamma that we should learn from. Okay, so now I'm talking about the process of what is the well-being concept in the Buddhist perspective. A lot of people think that Buddhism is just a religion, but I already listened to Dhammapiya, Panditji last few sessions. Buddhism is not just a philosophy. It's just not a religion. It's a way of life, and you have to apply in it. So then we not only talk about that Buddhism, we're talking about that, okay, we do it, we're applying it, and then we're going to get Nibbana. Then what is the Nibbana? We don't wait until that we die and then we get Nibbana. We have to get Nibbana from here, from this very life, in a different stage. How much do we cut the feather? How much we cut off the defilement? That is the Nibbana, but in a different level of Nibbana, right? So then, another thing that I would like to share is that in Buddhism, a lot of people think that Buddhism just focus on cultivate the mind only. But if we look at the Sutta Pitaka, we will see that the whole life of Buddha, he lived, the way he walked, the way he dressed, the way he holding his armball, the way he washed his feet, his routine, daily morning walking, all of those one is telling us that how he take care of his body. He preaching his Dhamma, taking care of his body through the example rather than through the preaching. Of course, the mind is so deep in, he has to talk a lot about how to cultivate the mind. But in body, it is so obvious. So we have to look through his example. So how to take care of our health as a well-being, we have to take it two aspects. One is physical health and the other one is the mental health. And Buddhism covers these two aspects fully. First, I would like to talk about that. Talking about walking, okay, his routine, every morning he has to walk for the alms round. And sometimes he walk miles into the village. And then this is the way not only for the physical health, but it's also for his socializing. Okay, so mental health and physical health, also including the socialization as well. So then he walked into the miles. That is part of his physical exercise. Okay, and then he encouraged people to eat 1 meal per day. Okay, eat 1 meal per day. That he told in the sutta, he say, I advise that I abstain from nighttime meal. I'm abstaining from the nighttime meal. I sense next to no illness, next to no affliction, lightness, strength, and a comfortable abiding. So then he said that if he eat only 1 meal per day, then he feel no sense of illness. Let me talk about this, okay? When you look at the today in Canada, and especially America, they're talking about the intermittent fasting. It's such a booming concept in America right now that they say 16 to 8. That means you have to fast for 16 hours and you eat for 8 hours. Doesn't matter what you eat. You eat fatty food, you eat high calories food, but you have to fast for 16 hours, especially that you have to fast from 4 o'clock all the way through the night until the next morning. So long as you calculate for 16 hours, you should not eat at nighttime. And whoever done the Vipassana, especially in Goenkaji, you know that you just allowed to eat breakfast and lunch. And that's very, very close to the Sangha's lifestyle, that we allow to eat breakfast and lunch. And whoever done the meditation, if you eat so full at night, there's no way that you can do the meditation at nighttime and in the morning time. But I'm not talking about the meditation, I'm talking about the health here. So then I also prepare a slide for you. I'd like to share the slide with you about the what is the benefit for having the intermittent fasting. Let me share the screen here. Do you see that? Do you see
No, not as yet. Not as yet.
Okay.
Now it has come. Now it has come. Now
so I do a little study, a little research on this. And when you do the intermittent fasting, you will see the cellular repair. Whatever you eat in, you allow the body to repair in your body. And whatever the waste product, it will excrete out. And it's an effective way for you to losing weight and also health as well. And also the people, nowadays people, why that they got the high hyperglycemia, which is a high blood sugar in the body. It's because they eat so much at nighttime and they don't do exercise. And then they have a big tummy. All of these signs are because that's come from that we eat at nighttime and we don't have it allow the body to rest at nighttime. And then also that reduce the calorie overall for the 24 hours and you reduce the obesity. Also that you allow the organs to rest, to work on whatever left inside the body. So that's why it's oxidative stress and inflammatory for the body. And it's also promoting the new nerve cells as well. And all of this is really beneficial for the health of the body. So you see, we don't see that the way Buddha has been living like that is really outdated. It's really whatever we have do the study, it is very scientific, whatever he has lived through his life. So then also that what other thing that we have to take care of physical health. If we look at the Panchasila, Buddha say that abstinence from using the intoxicant substances. And that is good for our health, for our brain. You couldn't believe that so many teenagers in America, they've been using drugs. And when they grow into the adult, they become a mental problem. So it's incurable. So if we look at that, that's part of the physical health that he wants us to have. And then we also should have a routine activity. Like I said, walking, eating at the right time, sleeping at the right times. That's part of the Sangha's routine. And then also the chanting, sutta chanting. A lot of people missing that sutta chanting is not part of the practice, but it is, because when we do the chanting, and if you look at the Pali chanting, it's sometimes it's just like a song, even though that Buddha abstinent monk and nun to sing, but when you look at the chanting, and the chanting is so soothing, and it's also reminding us how to cultivate our mental. And also that's kind of melody that really soothing our brain when we chant. And also meditation. Meditation, sitting meditation allow us, at least we have to do one in the morning and one at the night time. At least that is the time for you to listen to our body again, communicate with our body again, and communicate with our mind again. So that is how we're taking care of our body. And then, of course, now we go into the second part that we're talking about how to transform our mind. And I should include the Athangamagga. That is the Eight Noble Path. But because Dhammapiya Panteji already talked about Four Noble Truths last sessions, so I would not include it in here. Because it's the section should including the Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. But because I take that away as the previous session already covered. So now I just talk about how to transform our mind if we don't do the meditation. By transform our negative thought into the positive thought. And that's what is called in the Abhidhamma called Subhana Jettasika. But today I just focus on four major Subhana Jettasika. That is Brahma Vihara. That is the four divine living. And this kind of four divine living helping us to cultivate our mind from a negative thought to a positive thought. Now let me look back into the show you the slide, the next slide, why we need to transform our mind from a negative thought to a positive thought. If you look at this figure here, that is my cursor here, three parts that I would like you to focus on, that is the thalamus, hypothalamus, amygdala, and also basal ganglia. So you see, when we have a negative thought, we tend to deposit all of this behavior into the basal ganglia and amygdala. And when we encounter with a negative or unpleasant situation, our habitual that whatever stored in amygdala here and basal ganglia will retrieve, and it make us react rather than respond. And then we react negative, anger, like we used to be. And so that's why you see this one very small amygdala, very small, but it can store a lot of negative behavior, whatever we deposit. We think that we don't deposit all this behavior, but it does. It does in our brain. And it's also stored in the basal ganglia here. This is the orange color here. So we have to be careful. Whatever in daily life, whatever the negative thought we have, we should be careful. Before our thought has come out or our action or our words has come out through our mouth, we have to watch out because it will be stored in our mind and in our brain, and we don't know. So then we have to look into how do we cultivating it, and we apply this kind of four divine living into our daily living. What is the four divine? I guess that most of the people know that is metta, loving kindness. I think that everybody know loving kindness because Dalai Lama Ji has been mentioned wherever he go in the world. He always say that loving kindness and compassion, right? So then we know about it. And then Karuna, compassion. We have to become compassionate to what the people in pain. And when what is trigger us to have this? When we witness a person in suffering and have a lot of dukkha, so then we start feeling that this person need help. We need to help. And you know, through the COVID-19, you think that America and Canada is well prepared and everybody was supported by the government. They got the money from the government, but you know, there's still so many people go through difficulty, and then because of that difficulty, people making masks and donate. And especially my brothers and my sisters, she make a day, they make 50 masks, fabric masks. They just buy the fabric and they went home, they're making masks, sanitizing and send it to the hospital and send to the senior home for the people whoever doesn't have enough masks. And that's how they share their metta and karuna to the community. Okay, and that's make them to have a positive and make them feel the life is so meaningful. And that's how we got out of the stress, because a lot of people know that, especially in Canada and USA, they thought that, okay, staying home is so boring. They don't care about hungry like India. People die from hungry or travel for miles back to their hometown. But in Canada, they have suffering as well. Staying home is so boring for them, especially they live a luxurious life. They go out for camping and this and that, but they cannot be creative how to utilize all this of metta and karuna. So COVID-19 is a very good opportunity to retrieve all of this positive quality, whatever we have there. And then we have the mudita, that is the joy when we see other people's success. Now, this is very, very difficult. Sometimes that we see people suffering, we can be compassionate, but it's very hard to see other people's success and we're happy for other people. It's very natural for the human being, right? Am I right? Especially I'm a woman. I'm still very human. I'm sorry to say that, especially in school. And be honest, as a student, classmate each other, when the jealousies arise, were you able to mindful to see that kind of the mental state arise in you? So then you have to cultivate, that negative thought arise in me. So I better be joyful to whatever people's success. And then that's what we have to cultivate. And then we have to upekkha. Upekkha does mean that we have to be equanimous toward whether success or we have to, whether we in the unsuccess. Why we have to equanimous? We have to let it go. Whatever success, whatever I got a good speech or I got a very bad speech, I have to let it go, to move on, to forgive yourself sometimes. Whatever I have done wrong, I have to forgive myself, to move on, admit that I did wrong and move on and promise ourselves that to do better later on. And that's how we live our life more meaningful and be health, taking care of our mental health in that way. So that is the, and we see that overall this Brahma Vihara, the four divine living, is promote our sleep according to the Vishuddhimagga, is promote our sleep and make us feel comfortable. And then for sure, you will not have the evil dream. And also that look at the people who happy, their appearance always neutral, and be happy all the time, so relaxed. And that's how we should take care of ourselves. And doesn't matter we take care of our physical health or mental health, but everybody should remember one key point here is mindfulness. Because if we're not mindfulness, doesn't matter you eat, during you eat or during you jogging or doing exercise or walking, and if you don't put your mindfulness there, then there is no point for cultivating and taking care of your body. Because, for example, nowadays it's very common, people eating and then they chatting at the same time with their phone. How would you know what you eat? You don't appreciate the food that you eat, and you're not mindful from what you eat. So then that's why Buddha said that if you heedfulness in the path, then you live like you dead. But if you mindfulness, then you will live fully. So that's why doesn't matter mind or taking care of mind or taking care of your body, the mindfulness is the key. It's just like the salt for any food that you put in. And without mindfulness, we cannot take care of our physical health and our mental health. And I will end my speech here. Thank you again for including me for the speech. I hope that everybody take care of yourself and myself as well, physical health and mental health. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sister Bhikkhuni Thong Niem. It was so wonderful. You started with the well-being of everybody world over. You moved Buddhism is a way of life. We have to get nirvana. Thereafter, Vipassana, fast for 16 hours. I'm so happy that during this lockdown period, I take only one meals in a day. That is my lunch, no breakfast, no dinner, nothing. And I'm feeling more energetic at the age of 70. I feel I'm 20 years old only. So that's something is lovely when I have reduced my intake, and thereafter how to get only positive thoughts, and thereafter compassion, love and kindness, and Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha, and benefits of practicing Brahma Vihara. And then of course, everybody wants to have a good sleep easily and comfortable without taking any medicine. I think this is something wonderful what you have given. You packed entire thing so beautifully. It's a wonderful beginning this morning. And once again, extending a very hearty welcome. Those who have joined us here this morning from world over. Today is Asadha Poornima. I watched about 3 YouTube videos early in the morning. What is Asadha Poornima? What exactly happened at Varanasi at Sarnath on that particular day? And how is a Bahujun Hitai, Bahujun Sukhai? What was that Updesh? And how Dharma Chakra Day. So it was a wonderful watching, because see, if I have to come on a screen, I have to educate myself also about it, what it is. It was a great learning early in the morning, and knowledge acquiring from others. And it's better to be a student all the time. I wish to be a student at the age of 70, and whatever best I can pick up. So thank you very much, Sister Bhikkhuni. It was wonderful from your side what you have given. May I now extend a very warm welcome to Venerable Pasura Dantamano, Chief of the International Relation Division of Ven.Phra Dammakaya Temple, which has got not one, 101 in India, particularly 101 is a very good omen, because they always say 1 rupee above 100. So 101 international branches, which I learned this morning from your background. That's lovely. So may I extend a very warm welcome to Venerable Phra Pasura Dantamano to share his views from Thailand. It's a pleasure to have you with us. And I share a lot common with you, which I told you in the morning. We both come from that particular background, but now you're very near to God, and I'm still there only. You have left me on this planet alone. So let's move together. Take me also along. Let me also learn something from you this morning. With these words, Venerable Pasura Dantamano.
Okay. Good. Hello, everybody, and it's a great honor to be here. And it was such a wonderful lecture that's given by Venerable Bhikkhuni. It's about the educations and Buddhism. Especially, this is the Asadha Puja day, which is the day that the Tripitaka has come together into the whole picture and the beginning of the Dhamma that we have known today. And the way is moving forward to the so-called another new normal after the COVID-19. But for what it was, Buddhism and Buddha's teaching has always relevant to whatever the time it is, because before the Buddha passing, he simply said, I would not appoint anybody as my successor, but the Dhamma and Vinaya I have said will be the guide, which means that what the Buddha left behind is the either Dhamma and the Vinaya or the discipline that we got, which will be enough to guide us into our life. But to be more important is that how can we really explain it in the different method? So I will share with you this a little bit of the screen. It's going back to understanding the concept of what is the Dhamma first. A lot of time people started to talk about the word Dhamma as teaching of the Buddha. But Buddha enlightened the Dhamma. He discovered the Dhamma. He did not invent the Dhamma. The Dhamma is already there. Because the definition of the Dhamma means the truth. The truth of everything is about reality of things. So basically, what are reality of life? Whether what the Buddha said about aging, sickness, death, dukkha, sufferings, enlightenment, tanha, desire as a cause of sufferings, these are the nature that everybody facing. So whatever the Dhamma is explaining is always relevant because it's talk about reality of things. No matter how we delude ourselves, no matter how much illusion we're living in, at the end of the day, we can't deny the fact that reality exists and explained already in part of the Dhamma. And with that truth and reality, the second part is the law that exists in the nature. The laws such as the law of karma, the laws such as the lakkhana or the three marks of existence, which is the anicca, dukkha, and anatta. All of these are the laws that exist already in the nature and universally apply to all people from all walks of life, whether they are European, they're American, they are Asians, or even any belief. And that's why Dhamma is universal. Later on, when the Buddha discovered this Dhamma, this reality, these laws, then he explained about it. So because of that, the second understanding of the Dhamma is the teaching of the Buddha, because he taught from what he discovered. Now, how to realize the truth is through different sutras. That's why later on the meaning of the word Dhamma means principle or course of conduct, or how do we realize that truth on our own. So whenever we talk about education, one thing to bear in mind is that no school can guarantee that a student can become a good person. Educational facilities can guarantee how much knowledge a person can have, how intelligent they can be, but no school on this planet can guarantee whether that students will become a good person. And that matters, because when it comes to the nature of the world or nature of life, whatever we do, it bears an effect. What we sow, we reap. As a result of that, our action matters. So when we're conducting wrong actions or deeds, it will be something terrible in the future. As a result of that, what is education? Generally, conventionally, educations more likely talk about understanding of the world outside. And it's going back to what standardizing the knowledge. If you're in the first grade, this is amount of knowledge that you got, all the way up to university, PhD, which is about more on researching how the world should be. But what exactly in the Buddhist term when it comes to the word learning or education? The word education in Buddhism, we use the word sikha, and this combination between two words, sayang and ikha. The first one means self, and the other one means to see. Which means that the word learning in Buddhist term means to see ourselves, or the other word to self-realization. It's not about learning how the world is, but the understanding how we as ourselves realize what we got within first. And as the Venerable Bhikkhuni talk about Suttamaya Panya, Chintamaya Panya, and Pavanamaya Panya, you see that all knowledge that we mostly know come from the first two sources. The first one, wisdom or knowledge from listening and reading, up until it becomes wisdom from analyzing, contemplation, and experiencing. We got mainly these two, and this is also how every educational facility in this world are using. We read, we experience it, but we never discover like the Buddha did through his enlightenment. From what? Pavana, Panya, Panya. Pavana means mental development. So it's about develop that mental clarity until the inner light emerged and that knowledge came to us, become insight. And that is the third layers of knowledge that we have been missing a lot. The point is that every school emphasizing on the first two, but give me put it a simpler way. If you get a smartphone, what do? You get a smartphone, what you do will be downloading different applications, right? So that the phone can be functional. No matter how many applications that you got, that's how much the phone can work on. But if your operating system is not very good, the phone will not be able to function fully no matter how many applications they got, which means if you want your phone to work better, you're gonna have to upgrade the operating system, right? exactly the same as human being. What we go to school mostly these days is to download application of knowledge. We downloading chemistry, we download mathematics, we downloading science, music, art. We download different skills and knowledge into us. But it's human operating system that we got, whether it's dictate how we use them. Because the exact knowledge that we got of chemistry can be used to make medicine or weapon. What are the safety pins that will prevent us from using the knowledge in the wrong way instead of the right way? If we focus education as only to input ingrained knowledge, it doesn't really go into the true essence or objective of study or education. That is why when you say the word education in Buddhism is about self-realization, to see how this affected me as a person, see how these really affect me in the world, in the aspect of the world. The origin of all education in this world coming from the concept of to alleviate sufferings. Because we got problem. Why do you need to learn to eat? How to eat so that you get healthy? Otherwise you get hungry, right? Why do you need to learn different skills? Because in order for us to survive, the original ideas of study is to obtain knowledge in order to help us live easier and better, to alleviate sufferings. In the other words, what are the nature of sufferings? There is one particular sutra which is very interesting. It's called Sarirata Dhamma Sutta. The Buddha talks about 10 natures that we should constantly examine. The first 6 are hot, cold, hunger, thirst, urination, defecation. Among the sutras that the Buddha have spoken, there are only few of the sutra that he emphasizes are to constantly examine. Why did the Buddha emphasizing us to examine how we eat, how we drink, how we poop, and how we pee? Doesn't make any sense at all. But because these are how we regulate our life from the first day we are born to the last day of our life, we cannot define the fact that no matter how far we go, every single day of our life, we got to eat. We got to eat, we got to drink, and we go to toilet. We have to put our clothes on because these are the things to sustain our living being so that we can still survive. And it happens from the first day until the last day of our life. It never stops. The moment we stop, the moment we die. So the first day of suffering is going back to what? To alleviate the physical suffering that we got. Second, because we don't live alone, we live with people. The second part of the sutra talk about be mindful of our action, mindful of our word, mindful of our livelihood, which is all about be mindful of our social problem and financing problem. We don't live alone in a society. And as the Venerable Bhikkhuni was speaking about, happiness doesn't really come just because we got a lot of money. If our life will not fully fulfill socially, we got trouble as well. So social sufferings is also another kind that make people go into different depressions, anxieties, and a lot of more problems as well. All the way to all these materials that we got doesn't come free. We have to work for it. That's why we need knowledge. Become economic and financing problem. And eventually, we also got the spiritual problem or the mental impurity that we got, which infected what we think. As a result of that, now, from this here on, when we talk about the education these days, and as I said before, that no school can guarantee whether the students can, the school can guarantee the student will be a good person. So do we really study these days to alleviate sufferings or just to get the degree? I have been in the battle for a very long time in my life. When I was in high school up until the university, I went into a little rebellious period of my life. So just to give you a brief things, I entered university at the 11th grade into the best law school in Thailand. I hate law. I never like it. And I got started to think, why did I study something I don't like? After a certain amount of time, I started to realize because everybody has been telling me this is what I should study. This is what I should know. It's good for you. It's a good opportunity. But I never really like it. So I don't really enjoy it. And until I started to think a lot more, and really find out what do I want to know and why do I have to come here. Everything in life has a purpose. If the purpose of education is to alleviate sufferings, do we really equip everybody that come into the education with the skills to help themselves to alleviate the sufferings? Because otherwise, they come, get a degree, but those knowledge are useless. A lot of you have been to school before. If you really look back in those years in schools, how many of things that you have learned that has not been very useful for you at all? That's why there are two different things: education for living and education for life. The final goal of Buddhism is, of course, to be enlightened, and the other word, permanently free of sufferings. That's the absolute ideas of how education would be. We reach there to perfections, to different paramita practice. What is actually paramita? Paramita is to crafting, to developing our habits, our characters over lifetime, one by one, until we reach the state of perfection, to be generally good. Which means that the true education doesn't come from going to school, listening to lectures, conducting reports, which is about how that we develop ourselves habitually to be a person, how to we alleviate sufferings on our own 2 feet. We use this word, Puttang Saranang Kachami, we take refuge in the Buddha. Buddha word is Attahi Atononato, you are your own refuge. You depend on yourself. Because the first day you are born, if you don't breathe, you die. If you don't eat, you die. Then you gotta have to learn how to eat, how to breathe. When we're born, we know nothing. Everything that we know, we learn later. But that's what we know also dictate how that we become a person. Don't forget that because we're born, we know nothing. We make lots of mistakes in life as well. So that's it come to 3 aspects as the Vera Bhikkhuni was talking about of Sikha, whether it's Sila, Citta, and Panya. What are these? Buddha said, I left behind Dhamma and Vinaya. Vinaya is discipline. The first thing first that we have to study is how to discipline our own action. What we should do, what we should say, how we should look after ourselves. And that is actually to grow up as a person. Nowadays, I started to see different education methods in different countries, like in Japan, for example, that instead of inputting a lot of knowledge at young age, the first few years in kindergarten and primary school is about training how a person becoming a member of the society, how to interact with each other. Or in Scandinavian countries where schools started to become more on the free progress process rather than standardized. You gotta have to be exactly the same, study the same thing. Because eventually we are different people. It doesn't mean that we're gonna be the same. Just because you love art, you love music, you don't like mathematics and you're a bad student. And this actually has been a norm for a very long time in the world, that how the conventional education should be. When it comes to the Buddha practice, he emphasized on everybody find their own preference. Because we are not the same, even meditation method that he taught, there are so many different methods because it depends on the characters of the person. So eventually, the true education is come back to how did we develop ourselves habitually? Because that is the way we can gain 3 levels of knowledge, whether it's going to be from listening, from experiencing, and also from the mental development. When we come to the practice in our temple, we use something called Universal Goodness 5. Everybody in the temple trained in these base 5 things: cleanliness, tidiness, politeness, punctuality, and meditation. We keep only these 5 simple acts because that is the first stage of being responsible. What is actually a bottom line of the law of karma? It's all about being responsible for your own actions, which means that if you do something, you gotta know what's going to coming up next. Every action matters. How we can train somebody to become more responsible for themselves. Clean, tidy, polite, punctual. and keep meditating more to develop mental clarity. What I mean is that I have seen a lot of time we validate a person based on how much degrees they got, how many degrees they got. They got like a PhD, they got master's degree, they study different things. They got many achievements. It doesn't guarantee happiness. How do you define success of a person? Just because how much money they got or what position they hold? Because that is actually what is the norm of the world today. Success of a person cannot be defined based on those things, but it has to be defined based on how a person become a good member for themselves and for others. And that's coming back to this habit development. Then that is the education for life, not something that we study for this life, but also continue for the next life. That is the education that makes the world a lot better place. Like I said from the beginning, every school can guarantee how students can be intelligent, but no school can guarantee that students will be good. Eventually, at the bottom line, if we focus everybody to be competing just how smart and intelligent they are, this is the world we got right now. World of competition, people are being selfish, being cruel to each other, start to discriminate against one another. This is the world that we don't see people as human beings. Human transformation is what is needed in the education. And that's why Buddhism is very relevant today. All of the teaching of the Buddha are methods to develop these perfections, this habit development. But it has to start from what? From us as a model. We gotta have to be the first role model for others to follow, just like the Buddha did. Because all these things, in the old days, it transmitted through exemplify. When we become a monk, there's the verse that we have to ask a preceptor that from now on, I would be your students. I submit myself to be your students. So I would want to observe you and follow you. Monastic discipline said the first 5 years we have to be with the preceptor or the teachers in order to see how they live. The preceptor, the teachers are not just to teach by words, but by their actions. And that's actually how we learn to become a monk. Not because we memorize a lot of the discipline or text, but because we behave like a monk. True, eventually, habit development, behavioral transformations are the true essence of education. And that's why Buddhism is still very relevant today. My master once said, humans have not changed 1,000 years ago. They still suffer from the problems that develop from greed, anger, and delusion. And they will still face the same problem from the same causes in the next 1,000 years. What has changed is only technology. So those confuse development of technology from human transformation. We don't get better because we have electricity. We get better because our mind transforms, our habits develop. So last, thank you very much for having this opportunity, and I hope that it can be some of the input to be more aware that when we talk about education, I don't like to just talk about how things have been lecture degrees has been spoken, but to go in back to the very deep down concept of how we can start to transform ourselves habitually. And that will make us become example of the world that we want to have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Venerable Phra Pasura Dantamano ji. There are 40 people, no, 42 people, those have asked a question. Should I ask now or should I ask later? Choice is yours. I can give you a breathing time. If you want now, I can take on. If you want later, I can take on. Your mic is mute. Your mic is mute.
Okay, you can take on if you like.
Okay. There are almost 43 people. I've got people from Mongolia. I've got people from Hong Kong. I've got people, they are from Indonesia. I have got 2 people from Bahrain. They all are asking me, because when I shared your brief CV with them, how did you change from general manager from the hotel to the airlines as a cabin crew and coming to this particular arena and this attire of your life what convinced you and what motivated you, and what basically, because today the focus of this entire talk is making education relevant.
I have grown up just like everybody, being in schools, educations, having relationship, up until 28 years old, after I changed from managers in the hotel all the way to cabin crews of Thai Airways. And at first, I wanted to, before turning 30, I want to pause a little bit before turning 30 to see the direction of my life, because I've been, tried it all, did it all, sort of things. So I came to the temple. I wanted to be a monk for 4 months. Initially, I wanted to be a monk only for 4 months. But after spending time in the temple for 4 months, the first 2 weeks was like living in hell, honestly speaking. Everything was tough. There's so many rules to follow. I hate following rules. But after one night, after a few months, there was one particular night that I woke up in the middle of the night, and I felt that it's so quiet. There's a moment of silence that I never experienced before. I thought to myself, wow, I never really have that sense of peace for a very long time. So it's something that very, very, very touching. And since then, I started to enjoy a lot more. So I extend my leave from the company to a few more months until I finally had to decide to quit. And since then, it became 14 years. And what I have shared about the education before is because in the temple, we have conducting a lot of trainings for the teachers. Thailand, honestly speaking, have facing a lot of social problems. We have a lot of scholars who study educational theory from the UK, from the US, from a lot of Western countries, and try to input as a part of our education system. We have a lot of development in physical education. A lot of the curriculum has been developed. At the same time, we have reaching to the phase where a teenage mom reached #1 in Asia. And Thailand is a country where 95% of the population is Buddhist. It's a big humiliation to say that we have #1 in Asia when it comes to teenage mom. We rank #5 in the world in highest alcohol consumption. And this is the fact. So we are a Buddhist country and we have failed terribly on this youth problem. And what is going on? We have supposed to have developed a lot in the educational system, but still have a lot of social problems. So that's why the Ministry of Education started to turn to the temple and asking, how did we instill moral trainings into the curriculum? So we have to go back and see what's going on. And it's going back to this thing. If a person wasn't raised to handle themselves, to be responsible in their own family, even them to themselves, would they be responsible for society later on? Let's put it simple. If you go to the toilet and you don't leave it clean for the next person to use it, it means you disregard how a person, or you're not consider how other person should feel, which means whenever action that we do, we don't regard others as a person who want the same thing, right? So how do we develop the sense of consideration of others people's feeling or empathy? Coming back from these basic level of training at home. Habits start from how you raise a person. Imagine two mothers. The first one, when the baby is crying, she came and feed the baby with care. The other one, leave the baby crying out loud, extremely hungry, starving, before force the milk bottle into the baby's mouth. Do you think these two babies grow up in the same way? No, they don't. The first one will be mentally fulfilled, we have good mental state, pleasant. The other one learn, if I want something, I have to struggle so hard, fight so hard. You got two kind of different personality already. So these things that we do in life are the cause of our habit. What we eat, what we see, how we talk. So habit transformation starts at home. A lot of you who have been in the teachers in the educational field, you would realize that when you have the students coming to your school, they already develop certain kind of behavior. And what you can do is depends on how much they take back at home too. So that's one.
Bhanteji, sorry for the interruption. There is a forum of 1100 principals. They are watching you on the Facebook. And these 1100 Principals Association president, she's writing to me that children do not listen nowadays. The youth do not listen nowadays. They get angry if you try and modify and tell them. They are becoming short-tempered. They are asking for instant, they have used a word called gratification, instant gratification. And earlier we were telling them, don't use too much of social media, don't use too much of mobile. But now, because of lockdown and because of the present crisis, the whole education system is getting digital. So, Bhanteji, what they are asking is the president of Principals Association, 1100 principals are watching you on the Facebook, and they want a solution. What is to be done for the youth?
Honestly speaking, the world that we are living today doesn't make things easier. We have to fight against this technology. Number one, embracing reality. We cannot define the fact that technology is coming and is becoming more influential in our life. We cannot deny the fact that it's going to be there. So it's a matter of how we teach our children to learn to use, to do with them. Student, let me put it this way. I wasn't a good kid. I'm being very honest with you guys. I wasn't kind of good kid in school. I actually was a terrible, rebellious, delinquent kind of student. Luckily, I was smart enough to survive all the tests. But otherwise, I would just join the bully. And if you look at the students, yeah, there will be 10% of the really good one and 10% of really bad one. Every school got that. There are 80% ready to follow anything. Kids love to follow things, you know, they love to have model. So now how we can create the right model for the best to follow. The problem right now, we try to fix the bad one. And it's very hard because let's say that if they spend 8 hours in school without the digital thing, they still have 16 hours at home with a lot of habit that they already ingrained at home that cannot be changed yet. So within that 8 hours, you can do only so much. But at least if you started to develop a model and have the other 80 follow, it will make the paradigm shift like this. You don't try to fix the bad one immediately, but you shift the whole thing into the other directions. So that is the model to create. The UG5 that I have said before is a model we plan it down into like a 10 daily homework. And giving the score for them to give them the sense of encouragement, achievement day by day. If they do the check, they get 10 score, for example, 10 points. For something like get up early and make the bed. Or saving money, checks. Say a nice thing to teachers and parents, check. So these little simple things, check, 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 also about how to integrate different aspects of discipline and make good kids become an idol. I don't know about you guys, but for me, when I grow up, if you want to be cool, you have to be nasty. You have to be bad. The good kids in school are the bad one. You know, the cool one. The cool one is what? It's an athlete who looks nice, who skip classes. And this is actually the idol that we saw on the media today. Bad guys become the good guy. Now we got to have to create this example of good person for the whole paradigm shift to follow. The bad one will not be good immediately, but at least they become less bad, less bully. We shift the whole thing in the different directions. So it's about motivation. We cannot force these kids to do something. Nowadays, they don't like to be forced at all, but they love to learn. Eventually, kids' mind is still very innocent. So now it's all about how to try to be part of their life, try to encourage them more. It's a lot to work. I'm not saying this thing is easy. It's hard. But it takes a lot of us to put attention into living details and start to include little amount of discipline from getting up, eating food, keeping the trash, toilet. These little things started to develop responsibilities. What you want is to create more retention of attention. And how can a person retain attention in this social media as well? When everything is help everybody to be so distracted. So they gotta have to put focus on little tasks that they do. So whenever we put this, to put things tidy, we gotta have to put attention there. Just like the Venerable Bhikkhuni was talking about mindfulness. What is about mindfulness in action? These little things that we do in every activities that we are being mindful about. How do we keep things tidy? How we put these things down gently? How we keep things clean? How after use I realize this is how I should leave them. So that actually how we can help them to slowly creating that sense of attention and help hopefully that become more disciplined later on.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bhanteji. Thank you very much, Venerable Ven.Phra Pasura dantamano ji. Lots of people, particularly the education fraternity, they all are there. And they are asking a lot of things from me. But the well-taken point from education point of view, no school can guarantee that their students will be the good persons. And education, whether it is for living or education, it is for life, and right model to be created, universal goodness. And finally, what you have given is, I've shared with all of them that 10% are good, 10% are little naughty and little bad, but 80% follow the model. So it depends on how motivation, love to learn, and kids are innocent. We got to handle them in a very, very innovative way, creative way, and mindfulness. That is the final thing what you have given. It's a great to learn from you this morning. Great to know from you. There's so much which you have shared. I'm so grateful to you, and particularly to Venerable Dr. Dhammapiya ji, who has brought you this morning on this platform. I'm going to say you can be a role model for many, because particularly when you change from the hospitality industry to the aviation industry, and from aviation industry when you came for 4 weeks over here, and as you mentioned, the first few days were very tough, and how you are finding and how the present transformation has taken place. I think I'm not sharing too much with you at this point of time, because there's a paucity of time. But lots of principles from India. There are different groups which I have got. They may have a separate session with you sometime later, depending on your convenience, and accordingly we will work out a separate session. We are so grateful to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We are really indebted to you for this wonderful session. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now request Madam Shermila Milroy. She is an educationist. She's from Sri Lanka. Madam had been very kind. She waited patiently right from 5 minutes to 9 a.m. this morning. But Madam, patience always brings pleasure. Patience always brings pleasant moments. And patience also brings people together with each other. People are looking forward to, we hope that in Sri Lanka, everybody is taking care of their health, their wellness, their happiness. And ladies and gentlemen, further fragrance will come from the petals, which will be spread by Madam Shermila Milroy, because she's from the education fraternity. There's a lot common. I was with her in one of the panel discussions in Delhi, in Dwarka. There was a function when there were 4 panel discussions, and she was the one who was chairing one of the session, and she was kind to give me a little time over there to share my thought process. So this morning is entirely yours. Take as much time as you want, spread as much fragrance as you want, bring as much wellness as you want, and bring Sri Lanka further closer to entire humanity via Lord Buddha on a very auspicious day, Asadha Poornima. With these words, we extend you a very hearty welcome, ma'am.
Ayubowan. My greetings to all the viewers from the whole world who are watching this program now. Actually, I would like to join this session as an educationist with the perception of, there is a relevance between education and Buddhism. education always relevant to Buddhism, Buddhism always relevant to education. But I am not going to talk, I'm not going to give you a lengthy speech, because you all are, we have been listening to these speeches for a long time and we are exceeding the time as well. So we believe that education, if you ask what is education, basically education is changing the behavior of a person. The main objective of education is to change the behavior of a person. Obviously, we know in a good way. As well, what Buddha said. Buddha's philosophy is, we know that it's to change the behavior of a person, maybe physically, maybe mentally. So in short, we will discuss how and in which aspects education is relevant to Buddhism. I would like to mention certain things by some educationists in the world. First example is from John Dewey. John Dewey was an American philosopher and a psychologist and educational reformer. He has defined education as a process of living, and not a preparation for future living. I think this idea came from Ven.Phra Pasura also. It is a way of life. Education is a way of life. It gives us many aspects, many elements to have a good way of life. And education is a process of facilitating learning and giving knowledge, improving skills, and propagating beliefs and promote habits in people. So by educating an individual, we attempt to give some desirable knowledge. Now, for example, we know when you say education in a classroom, what we do first, we give the priority to give knowledge. Knowledge means knowing facts, gathering facts. But according to Bloom's taxonomy is a hierarchical model we always refer to in education. The first base goes with knowledge. Knowledge means knowing facts. And the second phase is comprehension. Comprehension is understanding. Third phase is application. So knowing facts and understanding the fact and applying the fact in the primary level of education. So Buddha also wanted people to understand, gather facts, and understand, apply the understanding to the life. So now you see in simple the relevance of education and Buddhism. In education, there are 3 domains. I would like to talk about that in short. The domains are cognitive, affective, and psychomotor, right? So this number 1, cognitive domain. Cognitive domain really relates to knowledge. Cognitive domain relates to knowledge. Knowledge means gathering facts, knowing facts, right? And this cognitive domain can be related to wisdom, intellectuality. And the second domain is affective domain. Affective domain in the sense, we mainly focus on skills. We manipulate skills. So for example, when you take meditation, meditation is also a way to improve a skill, exercise, manipulation. And the third domain is psychomotor. Psychomotor, it always relates to practice, good practice. So we always refer to good practice in Buddhism, right? Now I'm sorry I did not make any PowerPoint presentations for you. So as I was explaining, the three domains: cognitive, affective, psychomotor. Cognitive is gathering knowledge, knowing facts. Affective domain involves emotions, feelings, and attitude. So now, for example, when we teach them a lesson, just we'll take some simple example. First, we have to plan out how we cover up these three domains. Number one, cognitive. What knowledge we are going to give through this lesson. Number two, the affective domain. Affective domain in the sense how it can be related to the feelings and the emotions and the attitude of the child. And the third domain, psychomotor, to practice it, to develop the skill or manipulate or exercise. So these three things we need to cover in a lesson. As a teacher, basically you take a teacher, right? So it always related to Buddhism, I think. Yes. So, and in Buddhism, I have noted out that Buddhism always, foundation of Buddhism depends on these three things: wisdom, discipline. So wisdom always goes with cognitive domain, right? So as I said, and then now Venerable Ven.Phra Pasura mentioned that how a school can bring out a good person. So no guarantee for that. So how can we address this point? How can we address this point? Now we know according to these three domains, even if you do a simple lesson in the classroom, you need to focus on this building up attitudes and emotions and dealing with feelings of the child. And that will link to the society, how the child will react with the society, and how the child can cooperate with other people, help others, right? So these things, I'm going to talk about these things in a very simple way, right? So and according to that, foundation of Buddhism is, and I'm going to point out this, cause and effect. Foundation of Buddhism is the law of cause and effect. Without knowing this deeply, we cannot understand Buddhism. We know that, cause and effect. So how it is related to education? So when the child is gathering knowledge and facts, the child will always find out and explore how certain things happen and what is the reason behind it. So under cognitive domain, the child will gather knowledge. So that always, the child is motivated to find the root cause and how it gives a certain effect. And then when it is related to the second domain, affective domain, the child will develop his or her own attitude towards that particular element. And he will understand his own feelings. And then thirdly, the child will put that into action. According to Bloom's taxonomy as well, knowledge, comprehension, and application. So that is what we need, that is what we require in Buddhism. Right? And the other thing I would like to talk about is pragmatism. What is pragmatism? It's some sort of, you can call it instrumentalism, pragmatism. Pragmatism is an educational philosophy. It says education should be about life and growth. Two important elements of pragmatism include practical learning, which focuses on the real world applications of lessons, and experiential learning, which involves learning through experience. So this is very, very important, learning through experience. So that is what Buddha did. Buddha let people understand his or her own self and experience and learn through experience. So pragmatism can be seen in both education and Buddhism. Pragmatism means you learn through experience. We know different examples. There are so many examples in Buddhist philosophy and the life story of Buddha. How Buddha wanted people to experience the life. So there is a similarity in this element when you take Buddhism and education. And in Buddhism, we always talk about morality and intellectual enlightenment. So this morality and intellectual enlightenment cannot be separate. They are inseparable from each other. So education is also based on that. Morality and intellectuality. Intellectuality we earn through the cognitive domain. Morality we earn from the affective domain, building up attitudes of children, feelings, emotions, and how they cope up with the society, what they are going to take to the society. But we know that when we take different people when you do a class, you may have 30 to 40 students in a particular class. But these people are 40 different people. So we need to cater to these 40 different people. But the problem is we cannot expect the same thing from these 40 people. So likewise Buddha did. You need different strategies, different approaches to these different people. So there, when you link that with pragmatism, you need to give opportunity to these children to experience their life, to understand themselves, explore, discover, as Buddha did. So then like when you have different minds, different brains in front of you as a teacher, as an educationist, so as long as you don't expect the same thing from these children, but you cannot judge these people within one measurement and using one evaluation, but you cannot judge as Buddha did. Buddha knew that people are different, people are born different. So what he did was, he wanted these people to discover themselves, explore and identify themselves, learn through experience. So we see there is a relevance between Buddhism and education with the element of pragmatism. It's very practical. It's very practical. And I would like to talk about this, one point Venerable Pasura mentioned about Panya Sikka, Sila Sikka and Chitta Sikka. Sikka is a word in Sanskrit word we use to define, or it's another word for education. It's another word for education. So in those three areas, now you can see Panya Sikka is wisdom. Panya Sikka is wisdom. That comes under the first domain, cognitive domain. Knowing facts, gathering facts. And in lower levels of the Bloom's taxonomy, there we expect the child to know the facts, understand and apply. And when you go to higher order intellectual capacities, higher order thinking, like analysis, criticism, creation, those we concern as higher order thinking levels, higher order cognitive levels. There the child develops wisdom. So that is what Benjamin Bloom has introduced to the world of education. Knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, creation. So knowledge, comprehension, application are lower levels in the cognitive domain. And when you go to the higher level cognitive domain, intellectuality or higher order thinking, There we find analysis, creation, criticism as well. So there the child develops wisdom. So that is Panya Sikka. And the second one, Sila Sikka. That comes under discipline, where we train the child under psychomotor. Psychomotor in the sense how to coordinate his physical body with his or her mental body, with using different attitudes, feelings, emotions. So there we always, through each and every lesson, as a teacher, as an educationist, we are supposed to do this. We are supposed to concern on these three domains. And the third one is Chitta Sikka. Chitta Sikka is, morality, or developing your moral skills. So that comes under affective domain in education. Affective domain in education. There we make the child to build up good attitudes, good feelings, good thoughts, and understand herself or himself through that element. Now, I think this is very simple. You all can understand how Buddhism is related to education in these three domains. I don't think we need very big examples, but and I have collected some more ideas. Now, there are some Latin words. There are some Latin words to define education, right? One is educo. Educo. The Latin educatum, which itself is composed of two terms, educo. E implies a movement from inward to outward, and duco means developing or progressing. You take things from inside to outside. So that is what we expect from a child. When a child comes to the classroom, we never concern that that child is like a blank paper. No. He or she brings certain knowledge to the class. He or she brings knowledge to the class. Let's say you talk under a certain topic, you should never think that the child is a blank sheet, blank paper. So that is what it says. But the facilitator, we don't call these, we are not teachers now, we call them facilitators. We are not supposed to teach children. We are supposed to guide them, not to teach. So in guiding these children, what we try to do is to take things from inside to outside. That is what you call self-realization, to understand himself or herself. So the word clearly explains that, right? Duco, E and duco. E implies movement from inward to outward, and duco means developing and progressing. Through that, we let the child develop and progress. Two prominent words is Sanskrit stand out as equivalent of terms education are siksha, that is sikka or siksha, and vidya. Shiksha word derived from sha, meaning to control or to discipline. Term vidya is derived from vid, means to know. Discipline and knowledge are the most important aspect of human personality during ancient period of education. So there we talk about knowledge and discipline. Without knowledge, you cannot go for discipline. So first we focus on the cognitive domain, where the child is supported to achieve wisdom in education. And then the affective domain, where the child develops or improves discipline. And we know that education is the process. It's a process where you facilitate the child for all these elements. So I think my speech is very short, and it's very simple for you to understand, right? And we know that I consider Buddha as a facilitator, more like a facilitator. He said that Ei pasiko, come and see, try to understand. So in education also, what we do is we facilitate, we guide. We are not supposed to teach based on these three main domains. And we should not think that education is limited to the classroom. It's not limited to the classroom. If anyone is thinking that education is taking place only in the school, that is wrong. That is wrong. School is a place where the child gets formal education. Where the child gets formal education. And there's another thing called informal education. To get informal education, child should cope up with the society, be with friends and parents, relatives. From that, the child gets informal education. So informal education always supports improving this affective domain, where the child develops his attitudes, good feelings, good emotions, and the child is being trained to control. I would like to use that word, control the emotions and feelings. But the problem is, to which extent this happen in the school? The main reason behind that is most of the teachers, most of the facilitators are not being trained well. They are not being educated well in education, because education is a different subject. Education is not science, education is not maths, it's a different subject. So I'm trying to show the relevances of between education and Buddhism, right? So it's very practical. Education is very practical, like Buddhism, and open to everyone, open to everyone. You don't have to go to school to be educated always. School is just a place where you get formal education. We know that there are so many people in the world who are well recognized as intellectuals. Maybe sometimes they have not gone to school and not, they don't have any formal education, proper formal education. But they have come up with the informal education, pragmatism, learning through experience. So that is what Buddha wanted us to do. So there I see Buddha as an educator. We know that Buddha is a philosopher. I concern him as a philosopher. He's the only philosopher who is being, offered, worshipped. We don't worship other philosophers in the world. So I concern him more like an educator, facilitator. He facilitated us, or he guided us to understand ourselves, to take things from inside to outside and understand. And the other thing, the true task of an educator, or the true objective of education, is to not to impose my own ideas or my own perceptions in someone else. The way I think, what I believe, my student should not believe, my student should not follow. So that is what Buddha said, right? I'm just giving you kind of guiding lights. Follow it and see to yourself. That is what we do. So we don't want the children to believe or follow the same perception or the same ideas what we have. But we help them to find his or her own way for his own or her own experience in the life. So that is the major objective in education. So I think taking these three domains as examples is more than enough to see the relevance between Buddhism and education. Now I heard Dr. Gulshan Sharma was talking about a question from someone, one of the viewers, why our children are so aggressive and, hot-tempered, like why they don't listen to you and they are more with the technology. I too agree now we have to embrace this, like we have to accept this. Now the world is going with technology. If I ask my children to stay away from their laptops and, phones, that is not practical now. But what we have to do is we have to guide them to maintain their morality or their good thoughts while using these devices and technology. That is the main responsibility of an educator nowadays. How to handle this society. So they are actually, if all the teachers concerned about these three domains, in each and every lesson what they do, even if they do a maths lesson, even if they do a science lesson, if they really know, if they really concerned that they have to concern on these three domains, every time, in every subject, in every aspect, the child will understand there is one way, one thing is they have to develop their knowledge, gathering facts, and they have to inculcate good things, values inside them, and then put it into practice, psychomotor domain. So this is the basic thing I can tell you about the relevance of Buddhism and education. And I don't like to go for a very lengthy speech because you have been listening to these speeches for a long time, and I would like to answer some questions if you have any questions related to education.
Yes. Thank you very much, Sharmila ji. There are two questions which have come. One is from the same group, that is the Association of the Principals. So they want to know a little bit more about your institution, which you have got in Sri Lanka, where you are teaching. What exactly is this institution? Is it a Buddhist institute or is it a regular college or institution? What exactly they want to know about that?
Well, Lyceum is, if I say Lyceum is the biggest school in Sri Lanka. I'm correct if I say that.
Biggest school?
Yes, it's a chain of school. We have 12 branches all around the country with more than 25,000 students.
Okay.
And Lyceum Academy for Teacher Education is one project. So there, what we do, we train teachers.
Okay.
We train teachers. So basically, it's an international school, but they always give priority habits and practices related to Buddhism as well as other religions, and they don't want to be, like more modernized as other international schools. They always maintain that.
Yeah, there's a second question related to that only. Is it something like NCTE in India, National Council for Teacher Education? So is it a general category teachers which are being trained when you are talking about training of teachers?
Well, this is not a government or public institute. This is a private, totally private institute.
Okay.
What we do is we train teachers for primary levels and secondary levels.
Okay.
Using this knowledge, they can go to the classroom, and perform well. And we give them basic knowledge in education. As I told you, education is a different subject.
Okay.
So most of the teachers, they go to the school without knowing anything about education.
Okay.
So that is our main responsibility.
Somebody has asked, I'm sorry, because there are so many questions coming, so I got to help them out. Otherwise, they have waited patiently from 9 o'clock. Is it something like a B.Ed or M.Ed they are asking?
Actually, now still we are offering diplomas. Now, in near future, Lyceum is planning to build up their own university. Okay. So within another 1 or 2 years, we will be a degree awarding body.
Okay. Okay. What is the duration of the diploma is the next question over here.
Basically, all the diplomas are for like a 1 year duration, 1 year programs. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any collaboration in India with any setup? That's what his Principals Forum is asking. Or would you like to go for?
Under that question, I would like to mention Ven.Dr Dhammapiya ji.
Okay.
Actually, we had a good discussion with Ven.Dr Dhammapiya, and I told Ven.Dr that we would like to work in collaboration with India. If we can support the teachers in India to train teachers. Either we can come or your students can come to our place, so we can have some sort of an understanding in between and work. We would like to go for such a thing.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was so wonderful to hear you, to get your views, and so much of insight you have given me, right, starting from what is the objective of the education, how to change the behavior of a person, physical, mental, education reform. And one more question somebody has asked me, I just skipped it. You mentioned about somebody from USA education reformer. They didn't get the name. They didn't get the name.
Yeah. So
They
that
asked
is,
me, huh.
yeah, you can search as Benjamin Bloom. Benjamin Bloom.
Okay, Benjamin
Bloom.
Bloom. Okay,
Yeah.
Benjamin Bloom.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just send it across to them, Benjamin Bloom. And then you have come on, education is a way of life, education is a process of facilitating learning. And then, of course, you have given a wonderful 3 different domains of education. That was very enlightening. Then morality, intellectuality, and then how physical today it is to be connected with mental body, and then giving moral skills. That was something. Shiksha and Vidya, that people have appreciated that you have given from Sri Lanka such a beautiful chronology of both the parts, Shiksha and Vidya separately. People have appreciated a lot of them in the group. So I must convey it to you, it's a compliment, because Shiksha and Vidya, people have never expressed separately to everyone that has come. Education is not limited to the classroom. It's not only a formal education, informal education related to society. And then, of course, one has to control the emotion and the feelings and consider Buddha as, so that part, everything what you have given is, Shermila ji, it was mind-blowing. It was wonderful. It was so relevant. And of course, I am thankful to Venerable Dr. Dhammapiya ji that he brought such a wonderful galaxy today, such a wonderful speaker, such a wonderful visionary, and so much of wisdom to be shared of Buddhism. When it is Asadha Poornima, Evam Avarshavas, when we talk about Dharma Chakra Day and Bahujan Hitai and Bahujan Sukhai, so much has come. So I'm so grateful to you. Our regards and greetings to everybody in Sri Lanka. Please take care of your health.
And I would like to thank Venerable Dhammapiya for inviting me for this discussion. Thank you very much. And Dr. Gulshan Sharma.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hope to see you all soon again.
Yes, very kind of you. And I would request Venerable Dhammapiya ji to say a few words on this occasion before we close today's session. I know you are enjoying the hospitality of the Honorable President of India, but you should not be eating alone. You must share with us also, because you are enjoying the treat early in the morning of Brahma Bhoj. And please share with us also. Yes.
Yeah, very good morning, everyone. Actually, you will hear some noise, I think, now after the Rashtrapati Bhavan Dhammachakra Day program. Now things are being dismantled, so there is a noise. Maybe I'll go a little bit inside where probably I can sit and talk. Just walking now. So I'm going into inside. I think it's now it's better.
You're giving a free of cost walk to people in the Rashtrapati Bhavan.
Yeah.
People are very happy. Yes.
Yeah. I was really feeling elated that some of our Dhamma masters, venerable monks and nuns from Thailand and Canada, and our Mahaupasika from Sri Lanka have given insight into the teachings of the Buddha and its relevance. I could not get all the points. I mean, I could not listen because I was in the program of the Rashtrapati. Just it got over some time back. So here, when we are discussing about the teachings of the Buddha, we have to understand the Buddha, he has been considered as a teacher. That's why we say teaching of the Buddha. We do not say the preaching. It's not necessarily preaching, it's a teaching. Basically, he is known as a teacher. And in Pali, it is called Sattha Deva Manussanam. That means he is the teacher of both Deva and Manussa. That means human beings as well as non-human beings, Deva, deities. So not only human beings used to go to Buddha for learning, for the knowledge, for the wisdom, but also non-human beings used to go in different points of time during the night time. That's what we have a record. So the Buddha, what the Buddha used to teach. When we are talking about the relevance of the teaching of Buddha in the modern era, in today's education, there are three aspects. One is called pariyatti, second is called patipatti, third is called pativeda actually. And as our Upasika Shermila has said, the teachings of the Buddha is not only to give intellectual input or understand of the subject. So here it's overall all inclusive, starting from the learning about subject, then building of one's own character, conduct, good habit, mind training, then proceeding to purification of the mind. Then when one has achieved these three stages, then one gets fully accomplished. That is called the stage of purification, magga and phala. That means whoever reaches that stage, whatever situations one faces in life, adversities, problems, difficulties, challenges, mind will remain calm, quiet, tranquil, unshaken. Unshaken. That's why it is said, Putasya loka dhammehi chittang yassa na kampati. So many things happen in the world, ups and downs, but my mind is unshaken. I'm as happy ever as whatever things come and go. I am not affected by the world. That is the stage of development in Buddhist education. Here we have the other terms used in Pali when we talk about education. It's called Bahusat Sancha Si Pancha Vinayocha Susikito in Mangala Sutta. That means one is information, knowledge about the subject. It's called Bahusat information. Then Sippa, that means skill. So only having knowledge about subject is not enough for a person to have a good life or to support a life. So its next point is Sippa. Sippa knowledge means skill knowledge, your competence, what you can do with your own skills. Then Vinaya means when you are educated, when you are knowledgeable, your knowledge or your education will not be judged by what you know. Your knowledge and your education will be understood and judged with how you act, how you talk, how you behave, how you live, how you feel. That's called Vinaya. That means developing a good habit, positive habit. So these are the process. You learn the subject, have a good knowledge of the subject, then you develop skills at the same time or in different times. Then you also develop at the same time simultaneously all the good habit mentally, vocally, physically for your good health, good mind, and also good relationship with the people around you, with your parents, with your teachers.
Yeah, three domains are there available.
Yeah. Right. So then a person is called susikhito. Susikhita means you are to be considered susikhita, well educated, if you could fulfill all these three labels or you can domains of education, right? That is the thing. So in today's world, when we are having this kind of pandemic situation, students are not able to go to schools and colleges, they are at home. So that everything is momentary. Whatever happens, it will not last. You say it comes and goes. Now is the situation like this. It will change. Be positive. It will change. So good things are awaited. So just have a hope for the future, for tomorrow, and take care of oneself, both mentally, emotionally, and also academically. This is what. So I have to go, I think, because somebody is calling me now. Please. Gulshan ji, so I have to leave actually. Hello. Gulshan ji.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please go ahead. Please go ahead with your program. I've got my dignitaries. No worries. No worries. Please go ahead. Please
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'll be walking and listening. Please, you can discuss.
Okay. My deep gratitudes and thanks to Shermila ji. My deep gratitudes and thanks to Bhikkhuni Thong ji, and also my deepest gratitudes and thanks to Ven.Phra Pasura, because he got maximum, kind of a queries, so much of it. Of course, we have got a lot of questions for Sharmila ma'am also, but we will go for collaborative, how to empower teachers, particularly in India, jointly with Sri Lanka, because lots of queries have come on to that. We will try and work on to that together, and lot to share, lot to work out. Wishing you all a wonderful day ahead, wherever you are. And Bhikkhuni ma'am should have a wonderful sleep now, because it's quite late in Canada at this point of time. And Sharmila ma'am, I've got a lot to do with you, because you have revived the old memories with Sri Lanka. I used to teach in Sri Lanka in 1996, 97, 98 from the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. And I used to go there 16, 17 kilometers away from the airport. So today is a reminiscence of my all old days, and it was hospitality, it was tourism, it was airlines, couple of things were together. So now the whole universe has to be developed, helped, empowered, enriched through the Buddha's philosophy, Buddha's preaching. And finally, what Dhammapiya ji mentioned, that basically it's a teachings of Buddha, and mind is to be unshaken, and I'm not affected by the worldly affairs outside. So each one of you have given so much of valuable inputs. Our deepest regards and thanks and gratitudes to all of you. And at the same time, wonderful thanks to all my brothers and sisters world over, those who have joined for this program today. Thank you very much. Wish you all a wonderful day, wonderful afternoon, wonderful evening, and good night to all those who have to go to sleep. Thank you very much. Thank you. Namaskar. Thank you.